Happy Tuesday. I hope everybody had a nice, fun 4th of July. Rest in peace to all of you that could have no peace because your dogs were freaking out from the fireworks. Today, I want to talk about something kind of prominent that kind of just came to me the other day. Finding the medium between what your three selves want. And this is my theory, right? Of course, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a professional philosopher of sorts. But my idea, my theory is that we have three selves that we battle with all throughout our lives. We have the child, the young adult, and the adult. And each self has different emotions, different moods. So we have revenge, peace, and love, right? Whichever one you attribute to each self is unique sometimes. Like for me, right, the child is love, the adult is peace, and the young adult is revenge. For me anyways. And when I say that it's important to find the medium between these three selves, is exactly what it means. Finding the perfect balance and the best of each self to work for you in the way that you need it to work for you. So there's always a time for revenge, peace, and love. There's always, it goes hand in hand with the idea of reading the room, right? It's important to read the room, to understand where you fit, right? And what actions will be most beneficial to your current situation and your current environment. So there's always a time to choose peace. There's always a time to choose love. And yes, there's even a time to choose revenge or vengeance or, anger or any of those kind of vengeful emotions that come by and come through when we're dealing with certain things. How do we begin to find that perfect medium is an excellent fucking question. And I already know that this answer might sound irritating, but bear with me. It takes time and experience to learn how to find that perfect balance between those three selves. When to allow your inner child to play, when to allow your young adult to be vengeful, and when to allow your adult self to choose peace. Because the more that I go through life, the more I go through situations, the more I go through whatever it is I go through, the more I understand the benefit of peace and how important peace is to me. Because there was a time, not too long ago, if I might add, that I would consistently choose chaos and trouble and fighting and vengeance. All those negative emotions towards people that I felt wronged me or people that I felt deserved it. But there's a caveat to that because I wasn't really hurting that other person all too much. Not any more than I was hurting myself. Because when we do these things, when we choose a certain level of chaos, right? We're putting our own skin in the game. We're putting our own flesh in the game. We have to understand that with everything that we put out, we get back. And there's a lot of people that, believe in karma. There's a lot of people that believe in that law of equal exchange, right? And I'm one of those people that really does believe in equal exchange. What you put out is what you get back, but you don't know when what you put out is going to come back to you. I'll give you an example. So I work in a lovely customer service environment part-time. And I was closing up my area. It was the end of the day. It was a very long fucking day. And I had a customer come up to me and he was just like, hey, I really want to buy this shirt. And I was just like, all my registers are closed. I can't help you. And then he was just like, nope, I really want to buy this shirt. It's on sale, blah, blah, blah. And I'm all like, okay. It's going to cost me nothing to just open this register and ring this fucker up and get him the fuck out of my face. That was my internal thought process. I was like, it's fine. It's easier to open the register than it is to close it. I can do it. So I open the register again and I ring him up and he, I'm hoping that it's going to be a quick transaction, right? He says, no. He's like, this is the wrong price. The price on the tag says $145. The computer is saying $155. And in my head, I'm just like, $10. $10. It's $10. Okay. All right. Fine. Whatever. I'm not trying to argue with you. I just want you to go home. So we go ahead and I change the price. I ring him up and I'm like, okay, you're all set. And he's like, well, can I get a bag? And I was like, So at that point, I'm already irritated. I just take the bag. I put it on top of his shirt that I did not fold and I push it towards him. I'm just like, here you go. Have a nice day. And, he grabs his stuff and he's with his friend and they walk away. And right as they're walking away, they kind of look, they exchange a glance with each other. And they kind of like give I feel like everybody knows what this face is, especially if they have siblings. That like, haha, I won face. God, in that moment, I felt like I wanted to burn the whole world down to take that shirt away from them. It was one of those moments where I was just like, God, if murder was not illegal. Because in that moment, I was just like, these fucking people. And I remember I was discussing with my mom. I was like, okay, you know what? I did everything that I needed to do in that moment. I gave them what I could at the end of my shift. It was the last amount of juice that I had in the tank. And they still acted pretentious about it. And in that moment, as I was discussing with my mom, I was telling her what happened. I said, I feel like at some point down the line, and it could be like 5 years from now, it could be like 2 weeks from when that transaction took place, something pretty like annoying, like the same amount of annoyance that they caused me is probably going to occur to them. And they're going to have no idea what it's tied to. They're going to have no idea where it came from or why it's happening. They're just going to experience that same amount of annoyance that they gave to me in their life. I really do genuinely believe that shit happens. We're not privy to it. We likely will never see it go down, but I do believe that it happens. And there has been moments where some fucked up shit has happened to me and my thought process was like, wait a second. Fuck, I remember doing this to somebody else. So it's like, okay, fine, fair. I deserved it. It's whatever. So when you decide that was my little detour story. But when you decide where you want to go, right, and how you want to balance yourselves, you have to decide what it's worth and what you gain from being each self, right? From being your vengeful self. What do you gain from that perspective? Do you gain a certain amount of satisfaction long term? Do you gain a certain amount of peace long term? What is it that you are gaining from being this self, right? What is it that you gain from being loving? What is it that you gain from being peaceful, right? You have to discern, right? Because again, I talk with my friend Chicken Tendies about this all the time. Shout out Chicken Tendies. And we talk about discernment, right? Being able to discern certain things. You have to discern between each gain, right, of each self and what that worth means to you. And then do more of that. If you gain more, if you personally feel that you gain more from being vengeful or mean or whatever, then go ahead, go forth, right? If you gain more from having a more loving experience with people, with every situation or most situations, do more of that, right? If you gain more from being peaceful, do more of that, right? But the thing is that with this exercise, when you are going through this exercise, this internal exercise in your mind, right? You can't that's the best part of internalized reflection, is that you cannot lie to yourself, at least not effectively. Because when you ask yourself a question, right? Any question, you can come up with any question, right? Like, do I think I did enough today? Right? And you know for a fact, personally, that you don't feel like you did enough today. The answer is going to automatically populate in an unbiased way. But what I can say is that normally when you ask these questions in your mind, you get an automatic response of the true answer, the answer that you feel to be the truest in your situation, in your life, right? So if I say, do I work hard enough, right? The answer comes up in my mind, yes, right? But if somebody were to ask me verbally, do you feel like you do enough? I would probably have this long drawn out pause coupled with a lot of feelings of not feeling like I do enough. But if I ask my internal self, do I do enough? The answer automatically populates in my mind, yes. And it's a very quiet voice. It's not very loud. It's just like a yes, yep. Just like a quick yep. No explanation, no drawn out conclusion, just a yep. So decide, and I talk about this all the time because I want all of my listeners to understand that you have a choice in your day-to-day life. You catch more with honey than you do with vinegar, and I feel like when you are trying to decide on the type of self that you want to balance towards, it's great to have an amazing mixture of all three, right? Because like I said, you benefit. You don't have to just be one, and nobody can just be one. Nobody can be all love. Nobody can be all peace, and nobody can be all hate. It just doesn't work like that. We are very complex, multifaceted beings with a lot of fucking emotions kind of swirled in there like a little ice cream swirly thingy, right? So when we have a perfect balance of all of the basic emotions, right? And we have a good balance of all these things. Like I always tell people, I have like a little sprinkle of petty throughout my week. I kind of just let it go and it just kind of balances out, It feels like it balances everything out. So I have like a little sprinkle here and there of a little dash, a little tisp of petty in there in my day-to-day life at least once a month. I'll be a petty asshole. But, again, there needs to be a good balance of all three. And how you balance all three, because and people will notice this, at least I do, and it's very subtle, when you have a slight disconnect, or it feels slightly uncomfortable when you're doing too much of one thing, right? It becomes exhausting. Like if you're doing too much on the love spectrum, or you're doing too much on the peace spectrum, and it feels forced, right? When something feels forced, when something feels like a chore, right? When something feels like it's not truly authentic to yourself and how you're feeling, it's kind of like a nudge. It's just like, okay, you're kind of off balance. You got to recenter. So everything that I tell everybody on all my episodes, all right, what I'm trying to convey to my listeners, at least in the bulk of my episodes, is to listen to yourself. It is very important to take the time to listen to yourself. Listen to what your body and mind is trying to tell you when things are off balance, when things don't feel right, when things feel, when there's discord, right? Listen to what your body is trying to tell you. Because most chaos comes from us not listening to the very loud, sometimes very loud cues that our body and mind is trying to tell us. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes practice. Because a lot of us have gone through decades of our lives not listening to ourselves. So switching from all this time not listening to yourself to all of a sudden switching and trying to begin to listen to yourself, you're going to have a lot of doubt. You're going to have a lot of insecurity over some of the thoughts that you have and some of the feelings that you're having, right? And it's going to feel like a lot of work. It's going to feel sometimes overwhelming. But at the end of the day, I feel when we are operating from a place of how do I feel, what do I want to do, we oftentimes loop in the opinion of others, the opinions of our community, of our loved ones, of our significant others, within those decisions. And sometimes, yes, when you're a part of a community or family, you want to include those opinions of others, right? But at the end of the day, you have to decide whether or not this opinion is going to weigh overall on your happiness and your mental health. If it's something really small, because compromise needs to happen in almost any relationship or community, that's fine. But if it's the weight of happiness versus unhappiness, you have to kind of, again, discern the weight of what matters and then make that decision, right? That's how I see it. That's how I choose to see it. That might sound a little chaotic. That might sound like very crazy. And again, I am not talking about anything illegal. I am not talking about you criminals out there. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about these moral abiding citizens that have morals and shit. I'm not talking about anything illegal. If it pops into your mind to go, rape and pillage, no. We're not talking to you people. We're not talking to you. We're talking to the other people, the other side of the good people, right? The good people, quote unquote, right? Anyways, I love all of you guys so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And again, I will be resuming my video episodes probably mid-July because, again, things are chaotic. I have family over. Everything is in disarray. So it's going to have to wait until mid-July. But I will be back. I will be posting. I will have things and stuff to say of a video quality nature. All that shit. All right. I love you guys so much. Bye-bye now.